Hello, everyone, and I'm your host, Siobhan Myers on Talking Wellness. We are sponsored by Kiva Centers. The Kiva Centers is a nationally recognized Indigenous led peer run trauma informed organization. The organization focuses on development and promotion of healing communities for people experiencing different social class impacts like trauma, mental health, and substance use. And you're listening to Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection. All right, and we have a special guest here today, Bella Smith. Hi.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. I am so excited you were here today. I'm so excited that we connected. I think you have a lot to offer,
Oh,
especially being very successful and strong in what you do. So Bella, just let everyone know who you are, what you do, where you're from.
okay, yes, most definitely. Hello, everyone out there. My name is Bella Smith, and I am from Los Angeles, California, born and raised.
Mhm.
Lived in Texas for a majority part of my life as well. I am a little bit of everything. I am an actress, radio personality, entrepreneur, just a little bit of everything. And my background is entertainment, acting. So that's right up my alley. Yes.
Definitely. I was really impressed to see that, you're working with some well-known names, like you have like a deep history, like rooted, going down your family tree, like you said in your bio, like
Yeah.
what you do runs in your blood. And so you followed suit with that. So your father he was a security guard for what, Elizabeth Taylor.
Yes. Watching my dad growing up, he always just amazed me with the things that he's done and that he was doing at the time.
Hmm.
My dad, he's still alive. He's 6'8". His name is Johnny Smith.
Hmm.
Growing up, he was a musician. He always played guitar,
Hmm.
harmonica, keyboard, a little bit of everything.
Right.
And so watching him in the entertainment industry was like, wow. He was a bodyguard for Elizabeth Taylor. He was also a security guard at Soul Train, at
Hmm.
the Soul Train.
Hmm.
And then also he was actually the first Black police officer in Carthage, Texas. So that was pretty awesome to have that milestone that he was the first Black police officer in Carthage, Texas. So
Wow. Wow. So, and sometimes people usually have their kids along the way. Like, were you close to your father while he was out there doing what, his jobs?
Yes, very much. We were very close, and with my mother as well. And then, unfortunately, there was a situation where our family had got broken up. I actually went to a foster home, and that kind of changed a lot of the family's dynamic at that time. And so that was, something pretty big to go from, being in a full relationship, not relationship, but full family
Yeah.
type environment and then going into a foster care at I want to say 13, 14 years old.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that because kids are more resilient when I mean, it's still like it can be very traumatic, but kids are more resilient. And as you get older and at that age, that can be like a huge disruption to any teenager's life, you know?
Yes, definitely. I agree with that. But at the same time, remembering what my father told me and just always being strong, strong-willed woman. I do have an identical twin sister. So that was something at least I kind of went through that time of my life with her. I had someone there with me to go through that, traumatic experience.
Right. Wow. And I didn't know you were a twin. That's awesome. You,
Yeah.
you guys are obviously close.
Yeah, we're pretty close. We're identical, 6 minutes apart.
Oh, wow. Twins, I have like there's like 5 or 6 sets of twins on my mother's side. So
Oh,
I grew up
wow.
around them. Yeah. Yep, I think there was one couple that had, like, 2 sets, and then the sibling had 1 set or something like that. Yeah, so, it's awesome, it's fun. They like to play tricks on me, but I always figured it out. I always look for certain things. Maybe this one had a mole, maybe that one didn't,
Yes,
certain
yes,
type of descriptors. So that's good. So you had support, that support from your twin sister growing up,
yeah.
and you know, coming out of that and being successful, you said, "No, this is not gonna get in my way and what I wanna do." I'm setting out, to be somebody.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now, how did you start out?
I would say when we turned 18, that's when we
Mhm,
were out of foster care.
mhm,
And then, back with my mom and my dad. And then it's crazy because, at the age of 18, well, I got pregnant
mhm.
right when I was 15. So that was something that happened as well while being in the foster care and having my first daughter at 16.
Yeah.
Um, but how we came to being in the acting, like I said, my father was always an entertainer.
Mhm,
And he kind of pushed us into it. We were kind of shy. We were a little overweight. We really didn't know. But we did before we went into foster care. Sorry, just to
mhm.
backtrack a little
No,
bit.
it's okay.
We actually auditioned for the T.N. Tamara show, Sister Sister, and
Nice.
so that was cool. But we, of course, we didn't get the part.
Yep.
Um, but it always fascinated me about acting and entertainment. It was so fun. We role play when we were kids. So when we were 18, we actually got an agent, and it kind of started in high school, like 17, 18. We got an agent.
Mhm,
They would send us to different, locations, and the pay was very well to be in high school and to be,
mhm,
17, 18 years old. So that's how we got started. We had an agent. I remember it was only $75 at the time.
mhm,
We got a chance to meet so many different celebrities and stars. One
mhm.
movie I do recall being in was Sunset Park, and it was just an extra. I was just an extra in that movie,
Yep.
1996, but it was still fun. It opened up my eyes to a lot of other opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And you did it, right?
Yes,
So and the mental health around all of that, like the industry can be very hard to get into, and you really do have to have a strong mindset. Like, at that age, and we'll actually work up to like you now as an adult, but revisiting your younger self, right?
mhm.
Doing some therapy up here.
I know, right? There's nothing wrong with that.
What would you say, like, kept you going? What, with everything that went on that you've carried with you through that, what made you resilient, to continue to move forward for people who are young and they want to step into that and they have a lot going on?
Oh yeah, definitely. My dad, he kept us in church. That's one
Mhm.
thing that was like, I mean, the religion part of it. I mean, I'm just being honest. It's just my opinion. The original religion part of it, I didn't like,
Right.
but I did believe in God. I knew that
Mhm.
there was a God out there, and it seems that whenever I talk to God, whenever I pray to God, things just seem to get better.
Mhm.
So, um, having a lot of mental issues growing up and traumas and things like
Mhm.
that, I can say for sure God was someone or being that definitely was there for me regardless.
Mhm. Absolutely. It is good to have, faith in something. You don't necessarily have to go to a church or a certain place for these things, but I think the relationship is what matter. And a lot of the times in my therapeutic work, we always tell people, especially people with substance use, like, you don't have to believe in this person and that person, but as long as you have something to hold on to that grounds you, that keeps you going, that's really going to be important because we all need to hold on to something
Right,
to keep
right. I
us moving
agree.
forward. So, so definitely. I know a lot of people in the field, they do gravitate towards that, and then sometimes there are just other things going on in the background where they might,
Oh, yeah.
we know how that could be in the industry sometimes. Okay, so what about now? So now you're, I know I saw that you were also a radio personality.
Yes.
Yes? So tell us
Yes.
a little bit about that and your radio show.
Okay. Yes, definitely. When I was living in Killeen, Texas back in 2002,
Mhm,
I was applying for a job. I just needed a job, but it didn't matter what the job was. So I
mhm.
applied for this so-called secretary position. I had no idea it was at a radio station. So
Oh.
out of 25 people, I'm like looking around and I'm like, wow, these other ladies look so professional. They got their briefcases and like
Mhm,
I don't know nothing about radio, but I went in there and I turned on my personality and my charisma. And I remember I was the last person to interview, and he told me, "You got the job." I was just like, "What?" And
mhm.
so, being a secretary, I didn't know what entailed as being a secretary at the time. Like
Mhm,
I was doing not just secretarial work, but he wanted me to start editing commercials and doing all this stuff. And I'm just like, really? Like, oh my God, I was so excited.
Mhm.
And I worked 7 days a week, and I was the only one that worked there. So whenever there was a storm, this is old, when the satellite went down, I had to
Yep.
go up there and try to fix it. Um, but I loved it. It didn't pay much. It took majority of my time,
Mhm.
but it gave me great experience. I remember I got a chance to interview Tone. He's a
Okay.
gospel artist.
Nice.
I don't know. I haven't heard any of his music lately, but I got a chance to interview him back in 2003, and just being introduced to gospel radio. That was a gospel radio station. So it was amazing at the time. It was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really is about personality, I think, being you. And, sometimes we could be so scripted and sterile, and it's just like, go in there, be you, and be relaxed about it. And you just never know how you shine through that way.
Yes, yes, you're
And
right.
so you were like the last person to be interviewed for it, and you got it.
Right, right. And that was amazing. And
Mhm,
so fast forward, I relocated to Tyler, Texas,
mhm,
and someone told me, well, his name is Corey Espy. He's in movies now to this day.
mhm,
But he told me, hey, I know a lady, she's looking for a radio personality. She's never had a radio station. She doesn't know what she's doing pretty much, because
mhm.
she did TV. So it was a TV
Okay.
station slash radio station. So she just acquired the radio station, and he told me, hey, why don't you go talk to her? Maybe you can go help her out. I'm
Mhm,
like, wow, okay. So I went and had a talk with her. Her name was Violet Pier
mhm,
of Violet Pier Network, in Tyler, Texas. And she taught me a lot more. It was an internet radio station. So she taught me more about how internet radio works. And I pretty much formatted the whole station. I got a chance to just, put whatever I wanted to put in there as far as music and commercials and get sponsors. And that was
mhm.
an eye opener for me. So when I figured out how she did that, and I was working only for $50 a week.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
$50 a week, but I didn't care. I worked there for about 6 months. I'm like, this is for my experience, to gain experience. I will do whatever I need to do. I will sweep the floors. I don't care. But I think that's how, like, when you have passion for something,
Mhm.
it's like, I will do anything.
And the drive, absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes.
Okay. So, Bella, we'll be right back. We're just gonna go on a commercial break, and I'll see you right after. I'm your host, Siobhan Myers on Talking Wellness, and you're listening to Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection.
Hi, I'm Randy Floyd, Executive Producer at Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection, wishing you and yours a happy holiday season.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Graham Anderson, also known as Positively Suzanne, host of Black in Business, Thursdays at 5 p.m. on Unity Radio 97.9. Black in Business is a series of conversations with influential members of the Black business community. These entrepreneurs knows what it means to risk everything to create successful businesses and spark positive changes in the community. So join us. Again, I'm Suzanne Graham Anderson, also known as Positively Suzanne, right here on Black in Business, Thursdays at 5 p.m. on Unity Radio 97.9, Worcester's Community Connection.
Activa la radio y Unity Radio 97.9 FM te invitan a escuchar el bloque latino todos los sábados de 7 de la mañana hasta la 1 de la tarde por los 97.9 FM en la ciudad de Worcester.
Hi, I'm Randy Floyd, host of the Unity in the Community Show on Unity Radio 97.9. Join me and my guest as we discuss topics on embracing our diverse cultural communities, the music, the arts, and healthy lifestyles. I'm Randy Floyd, host of the Unity in the Community Show, Wednesdays at 3 p.m. on Unity Radio 97.9, Worcester's Community Connection.
Hey, what's up, Worcester? It is Jacqueline Carr, and I'm inviting you to be inspired with me each weekday morning starting at 5 a.m. with the Jacqueline Carr Show on Unity Radio. I'll get you going with the motivating words, special guests, and the absolute best inspirational music, and a few other surprises. But you gotta tune in to Unity Radio every day at 5 a.m. to get your praise on. It's the Jacqueline Carr Show from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. right here on Unity Radio 97.9, Worcester's Community Connection, and also streaming on WUTY.org.
Hi, I'm Siobhan Myers, host of Talking Wellness, and you're listening to Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection. Hello, everyone, and I'm your host, Siobhan Myers on Talking Wellness, and you're listening to Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection. And we are back with Bella.
Hey.
Hey, welcome back. Okay, so we really got into some good stuff prior to the break about your life and your experiences in the, the industry, the field, working as a radio personality. I know right now, the Braxtons, I love them. They're like my favorite. And I know that you are working. I don't know how I shall put this, but you're doing a film that's being directed by Tamar, or
Yes, I actually filmed for it was called Caught in the Act, Double Life. And it was very interesting. I actually auditioned for that. We filmed in January, and it just aired like last month, I believe, or October, I believe. So it just aired, and it was hosted, or is hosted, by Tamar Braxton. That was something very, very exciting for me.
I know.
I actually just auditioned for it. It didn't say audition for MTV. It was more like, I think it was like through Extreme Talent Agency on Instagram or something like that.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even know what it was. I'm like, let me apply.
Right.
And they said, hey, we want to do your story, but let's switch it up a little bit. I'm like, sure. Okay. As an actress, I'm like, whatever you want me to do, I'm willing to do it. So once we finally did the auditions and everything was kind of finalized, that's when we found out it's for MTV. And that's when we found out it's hosted by Tamar Braxton. So that kind of heightened the whole situation.
Yeah, I bet. And it's definitely a surprise, right? Because they didn't like put her out there like that. They just put the opportunity out to see what, I can see why they did that. Very psychological.
Yes.
All right. So getting into spirituality and mental health a bit, and thinking about the work that we do, the career or the lifestyle that we want to create for ourselves, and thinking about how self-worth is tied to a lot of this, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh my goodness. First of all, I would say manifestation is so real. I believe in manifestation because we have to speak what we want. And I believe that God is our imagination. God gave us this imagination. God lives within us. He wants us to create. He wants us to create not just a better lifestyle. He wants us to create products. He wants us to create artwork. Like, he wants us to create because he is a creator. So with that being said, if you want to live a certain life, if you want to be on a certain show, I mean, I've seen people that's been doing YouTube videos for years and uploading content for years and has always wanted to be on like an MTV show or be on a show. And it's crazy because I'm like, I put in not even that much effort, but I put in most of the effort in my mind. That's where it started. I remember going to the movies when I was younger, and I would say, and I would get emotional, and I would say, I'm gonna be on that screen one day, watch. I'm gonna be on that movie screen one day, watch.
You put your soul into it when you start tearing up and getting emotional. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes. Even with radio, before I got into radio, I remember writing down by the year 2000, whatever, I want to be in radio. And I wrote it down in plain, and I still have that. And I go back and look at that like, wow, like I spoke that into existence.
Absolutely.
So,
Having like those vision boards, they do
yeah,
help. I know
yeah,
because there's some people who say like, don't put it out there, don't say anything until it's done. I'm more of the type of person, this is what I teach my clients too. Like, it's good to share things with people who you know are in your corner and that's going to be supportive. You don't have to overshare, but it's good. You're putting it out there. So to say that you're not going to put it out there unless you doubt it, you're already putting something like that negativity on it. So
right.
I know when I put something out there, I'm already claiming it. Personally, that's me. Like it's mine already. I already put it out there. No one's going to take that from me, right? And
Yes.
that's like the manifestation behind that and believing that these things are going to happen and that you have that sort of control and that no one else can. But so a lot of people may say, it's like that superstition behind it, But if you're sure of something and you're sure of the steps and like this is something that you want to do, and then you have the potential, it's okay to throw
Yes.
things out there.
Yes. And
Mhm.
I also want to say that God is a very detailed person,
Mhm.
or detailed being, I would say, or source.
Yes.
You know how, like, let's say I want a car, so I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh, God, just I want a car. It don't matter what kind of car, just let it get me from point A to point B." Guess what? He's going to give you a clunker because you're just
Yep.
like, I don't care what it looks like. I just get me a car, and you're
Yep.
going to get that kind of car.
Yep.
But you have to be very detailed, not just with cars, when it
Mhm.
comes to a relationship, maybe a better relationship with your mother, with your father, with your
Mhm.
kids, with your teacher. It doesn't matter. Just have details. Like, I want
Mhm.
my car to be a black Mercedes. I want to have
Mhm.
this. I want to have that. And you'll
Mhm.
be surprised what your mind can do because God is in your mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
God created you.
Absolutely.
He wants the best for you because he created all these things on earth. So he wants you to
Mhm.
live the best life possible, because what happens after this? You die. So why
Mhm.
wouldn't you want the best things in your life while you're here?
Yeah, and you're making magic for the next lifetime too. I wholeheartedly believe in that. We do what we do in this lifetime, and I don't know if you believe in that, but past lives and future lives, moving on to the next lifetime, you really kind of that's the magic in it. You're building your lifetime for the next one. How they talk about people putting stuff in their tombs and all of that. What we manifest, we take with us also. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
We don't
Yes.
have to put it in our casket and take it along with us. It's all there, what we do. Um, but yeah, absolutely. Really did that self-worth, having having everything to believe in terms of what you want to manifest and not doubting that. Um, and something I wanted to say behind that too, in terms of the things that we do have, right? Because people sometimes believe like the grass is always greener on the other side. And a lot of the times what I find in manifestation, we can manifest what we want, and sometimes it doesn't appear that way, but we
Mhm.
get it, right? So, like,
Right.
I'll use the car, for example. So if you ask for a car to get you to point A, point B, but you really want a Mercedes, well, hey, you might need that clunker to get your credit score up or to get you used to driving, to have no one not wreck your car. Maybe you'll move in a better home on a better street where your car will be safe. You'll be prepared for that Mercedes Benz, right?
Right.
So
Right.
there's magic in that too. And especially in relationships, some people often feel like jumping from one relationship to the next might be the next best thing instead of working on the relationship that they do have and being patient and finding the positive in it, because we always want the next best thing and not realizing that we have it in front of us.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
You're absolutely right. Yes.
Yeah. So I think we can all do things that way and think about it. And it's just like with what you were doing, you said, I don't care, I'll mop the floors or whatever, but that was your starting point, right?
Mhm.
That was the start of your manifestation. And so giving you an experience, giving you like what it's like and what it'll be like, and then moving over to something bigger, you know,
Right.
something bigger is waiting for you.
Yeah.
Because if we're ready for it, we'll get it. But if we're not, then God is not going to want us to give us something to self-sabotage it. And a lot of people don't realize that. I had talked to a client of mine and she was like, I just want a relationship and I want to be with someone and I'm so lonely. And I gotta, and how come this lady has two men and she took mine, she still have hers. And I said to her, I said, so let me ask you something. I said, yeah. I said, are you ready for a relationship? No. I said, there you go. I
Wow.
said, you want it, you're praying on it, but you're not ready for it.
Mm.
And you admitted to that. So maybe, figure all this other stuff out that we've talked about, make your move. And that will slowly align with your purpose and everything else that you want to do, as if you focus on yourself.
Right.
But I'm like, she made a big fuss about it too in session. And I'm like, are you ready for it now? I'm like, okay.
Right.
But
And
some
she
people
may,
need that. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, and she may see someone else in that perfect
Yes,
relationship, but you have no idea what they may be going through at home. So I would never
exactly.
envy somebody else's relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was telling her today. I said, we don't know what these people go through, in the church or whatever. It looks good on the outside, but we don't know what's going
Mhm.
on the inside, especially if someone's still calling and hanging up on you. I don't know about that, you know. So I think and we're so predestined to look at the next best thing, to look at what other people have, to look outward instead of honing in and bringing that intention back to ourselves. I said, why are you feeding that negativity? Why are you feeding that? Your ex's situation. I said, start
Right.
feeding yours, start bringing that energy back to you, call yourself back to yourself, and then everything that you want will work out, you know?
Right. Right.
So,
And I just wrote this down. I'm going to find it real quick.
yeah.
Gratitude is a powerful antidote to worry.
Mhm.
So if you ever feel like, oh, why they have a man or two men or whatever, just be grateful that you're alive. I think we
Mhm.
have to look at the little things in life, just being grateful and having more gratitude, because we may live in an apartment and you want to live in that house and you're so busy complaining about living in this apartment when there's somebody living on the street, or
Yes.
and it's cold outside. So
Mhm.
just, I've learned that, just
Mhm.
being grateful for what you have for right now, because everybody has to run their own race.
Yes.
I may see you like, oh my God, look at her. She's on the radio. She's doing good. And I don't know what God has for me. It may be
Yep.
something bigger while I'm sitting over here envying you on your
Mhm.
radio station.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just staying in our own lane and just refocusing, right? Because we become detached too when that happens. We lose ourselves. So sometimes we say call ourselves back to ourselves. Let me focus on what I want. Fuel that energy to get what you really want, right? Because we
Yes.
have that shadow side of ourselves. If we have that envy, if we have that sadness, if we have that depression, like I talked about in the last show, those are all survival techniques. If it's extreme, it's a bit of an issue. But if I envy someone or I want that, initially we're like, oh, we see people going on vacations online. Social media can be something else. Let me tell you,
Um,
it might be like, yeah, I might want that, but how can I work hard to get that? Let me now focus on that, right?
right.
Instead of, some people, I don't know, you have some people out there never up too tight. They might go after the person or try to sabotage them or whatever the case may be. But these are signals to say, okay, these are things I want. And 9 times out of 10, it's potential there
Hmm.
that you can grasp these things, because some people might not care to go to Paris. Some people may not care to go to North Carolina. You know what I mean? It's just like, okay,
Right.
that person's having fun, do them. Right. But, you know,
Yes, I agree. And also,
mhm,
it requires, like, for the manifestation and for
mhm,
things to, go in the way you want them to go. I
mhm.
think we have to learn to rewire our brains.
Yes.
Whatever we were taught when we were younger, you know, um, we may think it's okay. Like, okay, this is for example, one lady, let's say she's loud in public. She's just loud and just talking loud. And somebody may say, don't she know better? She
Yeah.
may not know
No
better.
matter. Right.
She just
Right.
may not know better because that's how she was taught. That's how she was raised to talk loud, or maybe because
Mhm.
of a reason, or what, we don't know.
Right.
So we have to unlearn those things that we were taught, and just rewire our brains totally different.
Absolutely. And it could be what we've been through, like trauma. I've myself been through some stuff. And it's like I always say, treat people with respect and kindness, because you don't know how what they had to go through to be who they are today.
Hmm.
Some people really had to make some changes that a lot of people are not willing to sacrifice to make. And that's why they stay stagnant. Whereas other people, they really work hard to make these changes, to realize, okay, this is the way I don't want to be. I don't want to be the way my family raised me or how they behave. I'm not better than them, but I want better for myself. And I want to be able to open portals to meet other people and connect. And I can't do that being disrespectful, mean, or nasty, or whichever way. There's a certain way we present ourselves to get to certain places. But Bella, we'll talk more about this after the break. My name is Siobhan Myers, and I'm your host on Talking Wellness, and you're listening to Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection.
DJ Kid Cash on the ones and twos. Unity Radio 97.9 FM. Worcester's Community Connections.
Hi, I'm Storm, and I'm a part of the Bruce Wells Scholars Upward Bound program. The Upward Bound program is a program that helps many promising low-income, first-generation, college-bound Worcester High School students. After joining this program, I've learned many different and important life skills while making new connections and getting real-world experiences through internships and classes. If you're interested in any of these opportunities, you can find more information at www.sevenhills.org or 617-866-1293. That's www.sevenhills.org or 617-866-1293. A brighter future begins with you.
At KivaCenters.org, we believe every story matters and healing starts with being heard. The Kiva Centers are here to explore the paths of mental health, recovery, and wholeness with you. Visit KivaCenters.org, a statewide leader in peer-led support and recovery services, from Worcester to Western Mass. More information is available at KIVACenters.org. Kiva is lighting the way forward.
Tune in to Affirmations with Alex, and together we will affirm our way to a healthier mindset by listening to empowering messages. Hi, I'm Alex from Affirmations with Alex. Join me every Monday through Thursday at 10 p.m. on Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Q, host of the Woo 508, and I'm here with
Your girl Liza, Miss Consistency.
And it's your girl Chantel in the building.
Yes, y'all. Go ahead and follow us everywhere. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. The Woo 508. That's THEWOO 508.
Tell me again. Roll me a bone. Step into the Woo. Now you're in the zone.
This is Unity Radio 97.9 Worcester.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm Siobhan Myers, your host on Talking Wellness, and you're listening to Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection. And we're back with Bella.
Hey,
welcome back. All right, so I was getting amped up. We were talking about some really good stuff regarding manifestation and what that looks like, and obviously, again, just not knowing where people come from. And we could easily look at someone and be like, oh, this person had a silver spoon in their mouth. Do we know that? We don't know, right? Never really never judge a book by its cover, that sort of situation. That's how I see it. Anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that everybody is running their own race, so we just have to be mindful of that, because we may see somebody else, like you said, who may be successful, and we don't, like you said, we don't know what they've been through to get to that. Yeah. So we're all just running our own race, as long as we're just encouraging each other along the way. And I think the main thing, I think we make it complicated and difficult, but I think the main thing to this life, the main key to this life is love. And I think that's what really matters, and what help a whole lot is just love. And I say that because my brother, he actually recently passed away in July, right? Thank you. But before he passed away, he actually had a near-death experience. And while he had surgery, and he actually met God. And when it changed my whole perspective on life, like when I say that it changed my life, it changed my life. It on people, on places, on animals, on everything.
Yeah.
Perspective. And would you like to hear that story really
Yeah,
quick?
yeah. I was gonna ask you. Yeah, tell
Okay,
me.
yeah. So my brother had to have some type of surgery on his stomach. And he went in for surgery. And while he was on the table and everything, the anesthesiologist told him to start counting backwards. So he's counting backwards. And when he got to one, he saw himself hovering over the bed, over the operating table, looking
Mm,
down at himself. um he didn't know what to think, like, is this real? Or it was like almost like an instant. It wasn't like, but anyway, so
mhm,
he saw himself, he was looking around, he saw the doctors performing whatever they were doing, and he said when he popped out of his body, his whole soul expanded. His soul expanded,
mm,
um, so big to that his face or his eyes was close to the monitor, and he thought it was a movie screen. And the back
right,
of him was like at the back of the room. So that's how much he expanded.
right.
Um, he said when God came in, he felt love, the most love you can ever feel from anybody,
Mhm,
or times a million. He
mhm,
said he felt love, he felt warm, and God came in. He said it wasn't like a physical being. It wasn't like he saw a face. It was more like an energy. It was
mhm,
complete love, and
mm.
like love completeness. Like I can't even explain it. The way
Yeah,
he
like you just feel it, like like someone's poured into you, right?
right, right. And God showed him when he was one molecule, and then he showed when millions of molecules formed together to form his body. And
Mm,
God told him, I'll never leave you, I'll never forsake you. I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb. And so he was just amazed at that. He said he
mhm.
was crying or something like that. Um, and then God showed him some other things and told him some other things.
Yeah.
And he wasn't scared. It was just like he was just at peace, like,
Mhm,
you know, very peaceful. So just to give you an idea of how my brother looked, he was about 6'7". His
mm,
height was 6'7", about 300 pounds.
mhm,
So after the surgery, they had placed him in the recovery room. He was still out. And so when God dropped him back down in his body, he said he was laughing about this part. He said, I don't know what if God forgot to lay me back down, but he said when I dropped back down in my body, I was standing up in the hospital bed. So just imagine a man that's 6'7", he's that tall, and he's 300 pounds standing up in the bed. He just had surgery, so it's no way physically he could have done that.
right,
Like he could barely walk around. He was on oxygen, so he could barely walk around, let alone
right.
stand up in the bed.
Yeah, yeah.
Excuse me. So after that, when he told me that, I knew it was my mission to tell whoever I had to, because
Mhm.
God wants everybody to know he is real.
Yes.
He's definitely real. He lives in each and every one of us, almost like how our mother and father's DNA is implanted in us.
Mhm.
That's how he's implanted in us.
Right.
So he doesn't want the fornication, all the sin and the drinking and smoking and all that kind of stuff. He doesn't want that stuff because we, of course, we're his temple.
Right.
So
Yeah, absolutely, just being clean from that and, nurturing your body in positive ways,
yes,
because we're all sometimes we can't control what happens to us, but we can live a long, very healthy lifestyle, right?
yes,
So,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
So when that happened, it pretty much put a whole different perspective on how I see life. I don't judge people like if they're black, white,
Mhm,
rich, poor.
mhm,
It doesn't matter. God wants
mhm,
us to love everybody right where they are, exactly where they are. Just love on them. That's all we need. It's just love.
mhm. Yeah, you definitely seem very positive and, um, have like, not like a rigid way of thinking, very open-minded and, welcoming anyone in with love and respect. So,
Yes,
yeah, definitely. As long as they respect you.
exactly. Yeah. People, when you're nice like that, people do
Mhm,
tend to take advantage, and
mhm,
and I hate that because
mhm.
sometimes it was like, okay, whatever you say.
Absolutely.
But
Sometimes
that's our heart. I have a big heart, and I love everybody, and so that's who I am.
mhm. Yeah, we it can be hard to put up boundaries, because we want to be open to people. We want to be very empathetic, but it's like, how do we do that without robbing ourselves of like that self-respect, or making sure people are not walking all over us and that sort of thing. And that can be very hard for people to figure out. It can be done, but it's for some people. Do you
Oh,
find
yeah.
it hard to do, like to put up boundaries, or are you really good with that?
Now I'm excellent at it only because I just got out of a relationship. Well, I would say some months ago,
Mhm.
he was abusive,
Okay.
so I was the type that he was a narcissist. I didn't even know what a narcissist was.
Right.
And until after he was gone, I'm just like, wow, I did not know that. Like he was really a narcissist,
Mhm.
and domestic violence and all of that stuff,
Mhm.
and that's when I was like, okay, I think it's time to really, put these boundaries up and be serious about it.
Mhm. That's good, and you got out, because some women don't get out, it's hard, or it has, like, a long-term effect. What would you say to women who are still in that type of situation? Like, how can they get out? Like, what are some suggestions tied to self-worth and respect in that type of relationship?
Wow. I would say get out while you can. And it's about loving yourself first,
Mhm,
especially if you have kids too.
mhm,
Get out for your kids. If you can't get out for yourself, get out for them. They deserve so much more. Um, and I think the thing is that we have to find out who we are, like
mhm,
find out our worth. And we may not have gotten that worth when we were younger. We may not have
mhm,
gotten that love, from parents or from other siblings or grandmothers or grandfathers. And so that's
mhm,
it's kind of hard to tell somebody get out because
mhm,
because you may not know
mhm,
your worth, and you
mhm.
don't know you may be worth more because you think, well, I have a man, and at least he's doing this, and well, he did pay the rent or he did pay the mortgage. It's like you're so much more than just the whatever the
The
mortgage amount
paycheck,
is.
right? Right, that sort of transaction, right? I
Right.
think, yeah, it's some people, when we get to the psychology of it, you know, we are trained from young to have relationships. So if we have inconsistency with relationships, if we have abusive relationships among family members, home is the first teacher, then that's what we're going to subject ourselves to until we know better, until we know different. So a lot of the times with my clients, I have to take them back there, and they're like, wow, it's like, okay, well, if you allow this to go on, then obviously this is why we're allowing this to go on, because we've never had a voice. We've never come out of that. We never gave ourselves a chance to heal. And so now we're going into these other relationships outside of our bloodline, outside of our family, and we are subjecting ourselves to that same treatment. We're feeling that it's okay.
Right.
And that
Right.
can be hard, right? Because, once you know better, you'll do better. But a lot of us don't know because we may lack the resources, or someone hasn't taught us that yet, or we haven't gotten that sort of enlightenment, you know?
Right, right. I think I learned pretty quickly about that previous relationship because before that I was married. And he passed away in 2020.
Mhm.
So I knew what a good man was. I
Yeah.
knew, how to be treated. I knew, how he treated my kids and everything. So I knew what a good relationship was. I just had been single for so long
Mhm.
after that.
That vulnerability.
Right. And I'm like, well, maybe it's time for a relationship. And it's like, it's almost like I'm scared to get back out there. But at
Mhm.
the same time, I can't judge the past, for the future. I just can't. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm your host, Siobhan Myers on Talking Wellness, and you're listening to Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection. We'll be back after the break. Yeah, I was afraid to start.
Hi, I'm Oscar Kane, producer at Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection, and we'd like to wish you and yours a happy holiday season.
Hi, I'm Randy Floyd, host of the Unity in the Community Show on Unity Radio 97.9. Join me and my guest as we discuss topics on embracing our diverse cultural communities, the music, the arts, and healthy lifestyles. I'm Randy Floyd, host of the Unity in the Community Show, Wednesdays at 3 p.m. on Unity Radio 97.9, Worcester's Community Connection.
Hi, I'm Siobhan Myers, your host on Talking Wellness, presented by the Kiva Centers on Unity Radio 97.9 FM. As a licensed mental health professional and leader in the field, I believe every story matters and healing starts with being heard. Whether you're navigating life's challenges or lifting others through theirs, I'm here to explore the paths of mental health, recovery, and wholeness. Tune into Talking Wellness on Unity Radio 97.9 FM every Tuesday from 5 to 6 p.m. for honest conversation and inspiration. This program is sponsored by the Kiva Centers, a statewide leader in peer-led support and recovery services. From Worcester to Western Mass, Kiva is lighting the way forward. Talking Wellness, every voice, every journey. Speak up, be heard, and of course, be well.
Recreation Worcester is a free year-round program for youth run by the City of Worcester. The program enriches this city's youth in athletics, arts, academics, and social-emotional learning activities. Food is provided for free of charge for all youth participating in the program. Learn more at the Worcester Recreation website, www.worcesterma.gov/recreation-worcester. That's www.worcesterma.gov/recreation-worcester.
You're listening to Unity 97.9 FM WUTY. Let's talk, Worcester.
Hello, everyone. My name is Siobhan Myers on Talking Wellness, and you're listening to Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection. All right. All right, we are back. So we left off on the vulnerability and getting out of toxic relationships. And I think when we talk about relationships, not just romantic ones, it can be any type of relationship. Like, people don't know, like, if you're getting into it with your sibling, that can also be a domestic dispute. That's also domestic violence and that sort of thing. But just knowing your worth. But I think the vulnerability part is also important, because sometimes we're not aware when we're vulnerable, even if we're like the strongest people, or we consider ourselves the strongest people on the planet, to have that sort of awareness and what that looks like. And so what you talked about before the break in terms of, feeling lonely and just getting into this relationship and just allowing things to be, like, that's our vulnerability.
Yes, yes. That's definitely vulnerability. And sometimes we just can't help it because we just have a longing to be with somebody, or, I've learned now to not just be lonely, but to be alone. Some people don't know how to be alone,
Right.
and you may get lonely, of course, but I think I'm fine being alone at the moment. Look, I'm not trying to speak too much into the atmosphere, but but I would say if that suitable man comes along and he's just right, not just for me, but my boys as well, then I would definitely, I'm willing to take a chance, because that's what life is chances and risk and options. And,
Right.
we never know if we never take a chance or, take that risk. So.
Right. And try not to be so rigid, right? Because we definitely, it's good to have expectations, but we're all human and we're not perfect. And so it's good to have these standards, but also give people a chance, like you said, and see how it works out, because that one person we may feel like is not for us can very be the best person in our life, or turn out to be.
Right. You're right. So.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
just knowing that things are gonna work out, that's my mentality. I'm very optimistic about everything. And I don't know if you've ever had someone in your life that's been a pessimist. Everything you say, they try to change it into something negative.
Yep.
It's kind of nerve-wracking, and it kind of gets on my nerves, because it's about just training your mind of
Right.
what you say, because they don't know that words are so powerful.
Right.
By saying, I feel so sick. This relationship will never work out. I'm always broke. I'll never do this. I'll never do that. The list goes on and on. And we have to be careful about what we say. It's
Absolutely. Absolutely. Reframing, like you said, rewiring the brain. I always have clients engage in like self-talk. For every negative thought, change it to a positive one because, we're training, people don't realize we're training our brain to be negative. So if we can train our brain to be negative, we can also train our brain to be positive, right? Some
Yes.
people, that's all they know. So sometimes it's hard to really come out of that. So they will always wait for the shoe to drop, right? And so it's like, well, if you had a good day, you had a good day and let it be that, right? It's okay to have a good day. You're deserving of it too,
Right, right.
um, and not always expecting the worst. Or maybe you become resilient towards certain situations, right? The same thing that probably nagged you probably doesn't bother you anymore because you've gotten over it, or you become stronger in that sort of sense. Or if it's like if you're dealing with a situation at work or that sort of thing, you're over it, right? And you've learned ways to cope too. So that's why you might have had like a good day at work or that sort of thing. But
Yes.
it's all about the perception, and if we can't change anything, we do have to change our perceptions on it.
Right, right.
And that's the only control we do have.
Yes. And I encourage everyone, no matter what skin color you are, but, specifically for the Black community, we tend to not want to go to counseling or therapy or see a psychiatrist because
Mhm.
we don't want to label ourselves as something wrong with us, right?
Mhm.
That was
Mhm.
like a taboo growing up, like, oh my, like, no, I'm not going to see no therapist or
Mhm.
psychiatrist. But
Right.
um, sometimes, being able to see those, doctors and licensed professionals, they may have an insight that you've never seen before.
Mhm.
Bring something to your attention that you may not have been aware of.
Absolutely.
So I encourage, everyone, if needed, to go talk to someone. If it's a counselor, if you're in school, talk to a counselor. They can guide you in the right steps and guide you in the right direction of who you need to talk to if it's not the school counselor.
Absolutely. And because we have a long history, the Black community, and the stigma, and the stigma on top of the stigma coming from counseling and all this other stuff. And it's okay to say, just like anyone else, we don't have to be built to take harsh situations, toxic environments because of slavery or whatever the case may be. We're
Yeah.
human. We can go and get the support that we need, the help we need, especially the Black men, and
Right.
men in general. Because a lot of the onset of depression amongst the males it's really high, and it affects their ability to work or get out into the community and be social. I'm starting to see a lot of increase in that, but we do have a lot of men coming to counseling too, which is what I'm grateful for. I'm happy to see, because they are affected the most. But we don't have to be strong and take anything. We can have those vulnerable moments, talk to someone who's willing to listen to us and give us techniques, and like you said, that outside perspective.
Right, right.
And
And
we're so ingrained in the church sometimes, but church is great, but sometimes we need a little bit more.
Right, right. I agree. Um, and it's like, I don't like when people say, "Oh, you'll be okay. You're a strong woman." Like, I don't want to be strong 24 hours.
Right. No,
I want to
I
be
wanna cry.
feminine. I want to be soft. I want to cry. I want to break down. I want to be weak sometimes.
Yes, I wanna have that moment just like anyone else. Why hold all of that in? That's a lot of when we think about physical weight, we talk about that spiritual weight also, that weight coming down on us, and it just feels heavy.
Yes.
So we're carrying a lot more than our physical weight, mental weight, everything. And so, it's good to have that cathartic moment and have that release, and let it
Right.
out.
And I remember one time I was on Facebook. It was some years ago though, but someone was stating like, "I don't want to be here anymore. Life sucks, and I just hate my life." And
Mhm.
I went into his inbox because he had posted that, and I went straight to his inbox. I did not know him personally.
Mhm.
At the time, I was in radio, so I had a lot of friends that I had
Mhm.
accumulated.
Mhm.
But I didn't even think about it twice. I went right to his inbox, like, "Are you okay? Like, do you need to talk about it? Like, let's talk. Like, what's up? Like, I'm human. Like,
Right.
let's talk about it." And like we had some really good conversations. It never really went beyond anything else. He really needed help. I wasn't a professional, but I was just willing to listen. I
Right.
didn't know how to fix it, but a lot of times people just want somebody to listen to them.
Mhm.
We're
Mhm.
so busy with our everyday life doing this, doing that. And sometimes that person or friend or family members, they just need somebody to listen to them, not necessarily solve their problems, but just listen. And I'm a great listener. Like, I think I listen more than I talk.
Yes. I do sense that about you, and your spirit understands. And, it's like that silent agreement and that validation that you give. Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
hmm Yep. So happiness too. So when we think about like happiness and what that truly means, and that's defined and that's different for everyone, right? Like if you're happy being in a tiny home or whatever the case may be, or whatever meal you're eating, that's your happiness. You own it, right? If you're happy being in a mansion or whatever the case may be and having different meals every day, then that's your happiness, right? It's really defined on what and how we make it. And as far as success as well too.
Exactly. We create our own happiness. No one can make us happy. Now, when I win the lottery, I'm just putting that out there. When I
Okay.
win, of course, that's going to make me happy.
Right.
But was I happy before I won the lottery? So I think if you're happy before anything happens, then you're going to be happy after. So
Right, because those things are temporary. They change in value or the amount, right? So does our emotions because we have the attachment to it,
Mhm.
right? And I was talking to a client about that today, about detaching ourselves away from, certain things in our life. And another friend I was talking to about this too, and not getting attached, right? And that's really important because that attachment drives our emotions. That's what can control it as well. So
Mhm.
it's like if you have a coworker at work and they're driving you nuts, and you once were really close and you're not close, and you're feuding with them, make that detachment on the relationship so your emotions are no longer being controlled by this person, right?
Right. Right.
And I think that's what in life in general, because things fluctuate, things change, whether it be you can be close to people. I'm not saying, be detached, but make sure it's appropriate.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there was a time in my life when I was homeless,
Mhm.
when I was in California, and my kids were much younger, and
Mhm.
I remember I went to a church that had a big gymnasium that had a bunch of cots in the gymnasium,
Okay.
and I went in there, and I'm dressed like I'm dressed now. I'm not. I would still put on my makeup. I still, dress
Right.
like if I'm going somewhere,
Right.
I remember sleeping there. The next day, everyone was getting up and washing up and things like that. And then this man came to me. He was like, "What you doing in here? You don't look like you belong in here." I said, "Well, what am I supposed to look like?"
Right.
And
True.
because I was happy. I was full of life. I wasn't sad. I wasn't
Mhm.
wearing my homelessness on the outside of me.
Mhm.
You may have seen the things I didn't have, like, okay, I don't have a home, I didn't have a car, I didn't have a
Right.
job, but I'm happy on the inside. And he was just like, how do you remain so humble? Like, why are you so happy in this situation? And
Mhm.
I'm like, well, I believe in God, and I know this is just temporary, and that's what's
Right.
keeping me going.
Mhm.
That's what's keeping a smile on my face, because I know this is not the outcome. This is going to be a testimony for someone one
Mhm.
day.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely. And situations do change, right?
mhm.
It rains, but for how long?
Right.
The
Then a
sun
rainbow
usually
comes
does come
out.
out. Yeah, a rainbow comes out, the sun comes. Yep, absolutely. All
Yeah.
right. Bella, you've been nothing but wonderful today. Thank you so much for spending a good hour with me on Talking Wellness, and very insightful. And hopefully later down the line, we can have you back on the show to let us know where you're at, or for more insight.
Oh yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I'll just look forward to maybe another show,
Yeah,
possibly.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You bet
Awesome.
your money on it. All right. Thank you so much. My name is Siobhan Myers. I'm the host of Talking Wellness, and you're listening to Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection.